Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of emotional intelligence, especially when it comes from a woman who has learned to understand life on a deeper level. When a woman chooses silence, it is rarely because she has nothing to say. More often, it is because she has understood something that others have not. She has realized that not every situation requires a reaction, not every conflict deserves her energy, and not every person is mature enough to understand her truth. Silence for her becomes a language of strength, control, and inner peace. A woman with emotional intelligence does not rush to respond. She listens, she observes, she studies the situation with a calmness that comes from experience, wisdom, and sometimes even pain. She knows that words spoken in anger can destroy relationships, and words spoken without thought can create wounds that take years to heal. So she chooses silence, not because she is afraid to speak, but because she respects the power of speech. She understands that silence can prevent unnecessary arguments, avoid misunderstandings, and protect the dignity of everyone involved. Silence becomes her way of saying, I see what is happening, but I refuse to lower myself into conflict. Emotional intelligence also means knowing when words will not change anything. Many times, silent women have already assessed the situation and realized that speaking will only complicate things further. So they remain quiet, not out of defeat, but out of emotional maturity. They know that silence can sometimes teach a louder lesson than any explanation. It can make people reflect on their behavior, reconsider their actions, and recognize their mistakes. In this way, silence becomes a powerful teacher, gentle, yet impactful. A silent woman observes people more than she reacts to them. She understands their tone, their intentions, their patterns, and their energy. She can read between the lines. She senses when someone is lying, when someone is pretending, or when someone is trying to manipulate her. Emotional intelligence gives her the ability to decode situations without relying solely on words. And because she perceives more than others realize, she speaks less. She waits. She thinks. She chooses her battles carefully. This ability to remain silent while absorbing everything around her makes her stronger than the loudest voices in the room. Silence also becomes a way for her to protect her inner world. When she is silent, she is conserving her energy. She refuses to let small arguments drain her. She refuses to allow toxic people to pull her into their drama. She refuses to respond to negativity with more negativity. Her silence becomes her boundary, a way to say, I will not let you disturb my peace. Emotional intelligence teaches her that peace is more valuable than proving a point. And so, she stands firm in her quietness, choosing calmness over chaos every time. For many silent women, their silence is also connected to empathy. They feel deeply. They think deeply. They process emotions differently. Instead of reacting instantly, they take time to understand their own feelings and the feelings of others. They don't want to hurt anyone unintentionally. They don't want to say something they'll regret. They don't want to escalate situations that could be handled with patience. Emotional intelligence teaches them that quietness can also be compassion, a way of preventing pain, not creating it. Another layer of her silence comes from self-respect. A silent woman knows her worth. She knows that she does not have to prove herself to anyone. She knows that she does not need loudness to establish her value. Her silence is a reflection of her confidence. She understands that people who truly know her will understand her even when she is quiet, and people who judge her silence will never understand her even when she explains. This awareness gives her the courage to remain silent in a world that often pressures people to react immediately. But perhaps the greatest strength of a silent woman is that her silence is intentional. It is purposeful. It is chosen. She uses silence to think, to reflect, to stay aligned with her principles. She knows that silence gives her clarity. It helps her see what truly matters and what does not. It helps her differentiate between temporary emotions and long-term consequences. It allows her to stay grounded, centered, and balanced in moments when others lose control. Silence for her is not emptiness. It is fullness of wisdom, awareness, and emotional strength. It is a calmness that comes from knowing who she is and what she stands for. It is a quiet power that does not need validation. When a woman chooses silence, she is not stepping back, she is rising above. She is showing that emotional intelligence is not measured by how loudly one speaks, but by how wisely one responds. And in that silence, she speaks louder than words ever can. Silence protects a woman's energy in ways most people never notice. When a woman chooses silence, especially in difficult or draining situations, she is not retreating. She is preserving what keeps her balanced, grounded, and emotionally healthy. She understands that her mental peace is precious, and not everyone deserves access to it. Silence becomes her shield, her filter, and her way of maintaining her inner strength in a world that constantly tries to pull that strength out of her. A woman who has learned to protect her energy knows that her time, her emotions, and her mental space are limited resources. She cannot pour herself into everyone, respond to every accusation, or entertain every unnecessary argument. She realizes that some people enjoy creating noise just to drain others. Some people provoke her just to see her reaction. Some people thrive on drama, confusion, and tension. But she does not. She has evolved beyond the need to engage in negativity. So she uses silence as her boundary, a subtle yet powerful reminder that she will not participate in anything that disturbs her peace. Silence becomes her no without the confrontation. It becomes her way of saying, I choose me. I choose calm over chaos. Every time she stays silent instead of reacting, she is reinforcing her self-control. She refuses to let situations pull her into emotional exhaustion. She has realized that not everything deserves her explanation, and not everyone has earned the right to hear her voice. Silence for her is a way of cleaning her emotional environment. She filters out the unnecessary, the toxic, and the draining simply by refusing to give them attention. Protecting energy also means understanding what situations take away from her and what situations nourish her. A silent woman watches carefully. She notices how certain conversations leave her heavy, how certain people drain her, and how certain environments disrupt her balance. And instead of trying to fix everything or please everyone, she chooses quiet distance. She steps back with grace without making a scene. She does not fight loudly, she withdraws silently. That withdrawal is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is her way of keeping her spirit intact. There are moments when she has every right to react, every reason to respond, and every justification to speak up. But still, she chooses silence. Why? Because she knows that some responses give power to the wrong people. Some reactions feed the egos of those who want to see her lose control. And some situations are simply not worth the emotional cost. This awareness comes from experience, from learning that peace is far more valuable than proving a point. Silence also protects her energy by giving her emotional clarity. Instead of responding immediately, she stays quiet and allows herself to understand what she truly feels. Silence gives her space to process her emotions without pressure. It allows her to breathe before she decides. It gives her time to separate temporary anger from deep truth. Many women regret the words they said in the heat of the moment, but a silent woman rarely has regrets because she chooses reflection before reaction. She chooses inner harmony before external noise. In silence, she regains strength. She gathers herself. She heals. She restores the parts of her that the world has drained. Silence becomes a place where she reconnects with herself, her values, her priorities, her dreams. When life gets overwhelming, she does not shout for attention or validation. She goes inward. She becomes still. And in that stillness, she finds answers that loudness could never give. Protecting energy is also about recognizing emotional thieves, people who take and take, but never give. Silent women often see through these people faster than others. They recognize manipulation, guilt tripping, emotional dumping, and hidden intentions. Instead of engaging or confronting, they choose silence to protect their peace. They slowly distance themselves, not in anger, but in self-respect. Their silence becomes the wall that prevents emotionally draining people from entering their inner world. Silence also protects her from misunderstandings. When she chooses not to argue, she avoids unnecessary conflict. When she chooses not to explain herself repeatedly, she avoids emotional exhaustion. When she chooses not to react to every comment, she avoids giving others control over her mood. This self-preservation is a form of emotional maturity. It shows that she values her peace more than winning an argument. Another powerful aspect of her silence is that it allows her to observe instead of react. In moments of silence, she sees people's true faces. She notices who respects her boundaries and who tries to break them. She sees who deserves her time and who does not. Silence reveals truths that loudness often hides. Ultimately, silence becomes her way of conserving her emotional, mental, and spiritual energy. She has learned that she cannot pour into others from an empty cup. By staying silent, she protects what keeps her strong. She remains calm in a world full of noise. She stays centered even when chaos surrounds her. Her silence is not quietness. It is self-defense. It is self-love. It is the quiet power of a woman who knows that her energy is sacred, and she will not waste it on anything that does not help her grow, heal, or rise. Silent strength is one of the most misunderstood qualities a woman can possess. People often assume that if she is quiet, she must be weak. If she doesn't argue, she must be scared. If she walks away, she must be defeated. But what they fail to understand is that silence is not the opposite of strength. It is one of its most refined forms. A woman who remains silent in situations where others expect noise is often the one who has already mastered herself. Her silence is not an absence of power, it is the presence of discipline, restraint, and wisdom that many people never reach. People misunderstand her silence because they judge her by their own standards. They expect her to shout back, defend herself, fight loudly, or try to prove her worth. When she chooses not to, they label her as weak. But in reality, her silence is a sign that she has nothing to prove. She understands that raising her voice does not raise her value. Loudness may win arguments, but silence wins dignity. She chooses dignity every single time. A silent woman knows that inner strength does not require an audience applause or validation. It lives quietly within her, steady, firm, and unshakable. When people misunderstand her silence, it often reveals more about them than about her. Some people feel uncomfortable when she doesn't react because they expect drama. Some try to provoke her because they want control. Some misinterpret her calmness as surrender because they do not see the depth of her understanding. What they don't realize is that she evaluates everything before she reacts. She thinks before she speaks. She examines the situation, the consequences, the emotions, and the intentions. This ability to pause instead of exploding is not weakness. It is emotional maturity that many fail to achieve. A silent woman often carries strength that has been built over years of challenges. She has gone through storms that forced her to grow inwardly. She has endured pain that taught her the value of peace. She has survived moments where she had to be her own anchor. These experiences create a strength that does not need to shout. When she is silent, she is not shrinking, she is rising inside. Her silence is the result of lessons learned, battles won, and wisdom earned. It is quiet because it is stable. It is firm because it has been tested. People misunderstand her silence because they believe strength is loud. They imagine power in raised voices, heated debates, aggressive reactions, and forceful behaviors. But true strength is often gentle. It is still. It is composed. It does not panic. It does not collapse under pressure. A silent woman shows that strength by remaining calm when others lose control. She refuses to let circumstances dictate her emotions. She refuses to let anyone pull her into chaos. Her silence becomes her shield. It protects her from saying or doing anything that might harm her spirit. Her silence is also misunderstood because people assume she avoids conflict. But the truth is, she chooses her battles wisely. She knows some battles are not worth fighting. Some situations do not deserve her energy. Some people are not ready for the truth, no matter how loudly she speaks it. Silence becomes her way of stepping back from what is beneath her. She saves her strength for moments and people that truly matter. She is not afraid of conflict. She simply understands that unnecessary conflict is a waste of time and emotions. Silent women are observers. They notice everything: the tone, the behavior, the intentions behind words. They understand far more than they reveal. Because of this, they don't react impulsively. They remain silent until they fully understand what needs to be said. And when they finally speak, their words carry weight. They speak with clarity, purpose, and depth. That is why people listen when a silent woman chooses to use her voice, because her silence has already created respect. Yet this silence is often mistaken for passiveness. People think she does not care simply because she doesn't show her emotions loudly. But inside her silence, she may be feeling deeply. She may be processing pain, healing, or making difficult decisions. Silence gives her space to handle her emotions privately without letting the world interfere. It gives her strength to rebuild herself without exposing her vulnerability. People may not see the battle, but they will see the transformation. Silent strength is also misunderstood because it does not seek revenge, drama, or attention. Instead, it seeks peace. A silent woman can walk away from people who are harmful without explaining herself. She can let go without arguing. She can step back without creating scenes. This ability to detach quietly takes more strength than fighting loudly ever could. It shows she has control over her emotions, not the other way around. What people often fail to realize is that silence requires extraordinary inner power. It requires discipline to remain quiet when you want to shout. It requires confidence to stay still when others push your limits. It requires courage to let go when you want to hold on. And it requires wisdom to choose peace over pride. A silent woman is far from weak. She is a warrior with a calm spirit. She is a storm with a gentle presence. She is proof that strength does not always roar. Sometimes strength sits quietly, watching, understanding, growing, and when the right moment comes, it rises with a power that cannot be mistaken. Her silence is not misunderstood because it lacks meaning. It is misunderstood because most people cannot see beyond noise. But she does not need them to see. She knows who she is. She knows what her silence holds, and that is enough. Silent women listen deeply, far more deeply than most people can imagine. Their silence is not just the absence of words, it is an active, powerful state of awareness. When a woman chooses to listen instead of speaking, she is gathering understanding, absorbing details, and connecting with the emotions behind the words. Her silence is not passive, it is intentional. It allows her to see what others miss, feel what others ignore, and understand what others misunderstand. A silent woman does not just hear what is said, she also hears what is not said. When she is silent, she is observing everything: the tone, the pauses, the expressions, the patterns, the little signs that reveal truth. People often underestimate her because she does not interrupt or rush to respond. But this quietness gives her an extraordinary advantage. While others talk to be heard, she listens to understand. This type of listening goes beyond ears. It involves intuition, emotional sensitivity, and mental clarity. She picks up subtle signals that loud people overlook. She senses honesty, insincerity, frustration, fear, love, and hidden intentions without anyone having to explain. Her silence makes her more perceptive than those who dominate conversations with endless words. This deep listening also makes her empathetic because she genuinely pays attention. She understands people's feelings even when they struggle to express them. She can hear pain behind forced laughter. She can detect stress behind casual words. She can sense insecurity behind arrogance. This emotional intelligence allows her to connect with others at a level that feels comforting and safe. People often feel understood around her, even if she barely says anything, because she listens with presence and warmth. Her silence becomes a space where others feel seen and valued. Silent women also listen to themselves more deeply. They are in touch with their inner voice, their intuition, their emotional needs. Most people drown their inner guidance in noise, distraction, and overthinking. But a woman who practices silence can hear her thoughts clearly. She understands her emotions instead of ignoring them. She recognizes her triggers, her desires, her fears, and her dreams. Through silence, she has learned to separate her real feelings from temporary reactions. This self-awareness becomes one of her greatest strengths. It guides her decisions, her relationships, and her boundaries. When she listens to herself, she understands what is right for her without needing external validation. Deep listening also helps her avoid unnecessary conflict. Because she pays attention, she often sees misunderstandings forming long before they escalate. She notices when someone is speaking out of anger, insecurity, or pressure. Instead of reacting immediately, she allows the moment to settle. She understands that sometimes people need to express themselves before they can hear anyone else. Her silence becomes a way of calming turbulent situations, not fueling them. People may not realize it, but her quiet presence often diffuses conflict simply because she listens without judgment. A silent woman also listens to life. She notices the lessons hidden in everyday moments. She hears wisdom in experiences, patterns, and situations. When life whispers hints through intuition, coincidences, or sudden clarity, she pays attention. Her silence keeps her spiritually awake. She does not rush through life blindly. She observes, learns, and grows. This reflective nature gives her a depth that loud people rarely develop. She thinks before acting. She analyzes before committing. She understands before deciding. Her life choices reflect the maturity gained from listening deeply. Listening deeply also helps her build stronger relationships. People feel safe opening up to her because she does not judge, interrupt, or compete for attention. She gives them space to be honest. Because she listens carefully, she remembers details others forget, small things that matter deeply. She notices changes in behavior and mood. She checks in when something feels off. She offers support even before someone asks for it. Her relationships thrive not because she talks beautifully, but because she listens beautifully. Her silence becomes a gift of understanding, patience, and love. However, this deep listening can also be exhausting when people take advantage of her empathy. Silent women often attract those who want to be heard, but never reciprocate. She listens because it comes naturally to her, and sometimes she ends up carrying emotional burdens that do not belong to her. But even then, her silence helps her see the truth, who values her and who uses her, who respects her energy and who drains it. Because she listens deeply, she eventually learns to protect herself deeply too. Another powerful aspect of a silent woman's listening is that she hears authenticity. She can sense when someone is genuine or when they are pretending. She may not confront them, but she quietly adjusts her distance. She listens to people's consistency, not just their promises. She listens to actions, not just words. Over time, this helps her choose better friends, relationships, and environments. She avoids people who talk beautifully but behave poorly. She moves toward people whose actions match their words. Her listening becomes her filter, guiding her toward truth and away from deception. In her silence, she also listens to the energy of situations. She can walk into a room and feel whether it is peaceful, tense, welcoming, or unsafe. She trusts these instincts because silence has sharpened her awareness. This intuitive listening protects her, guides her, and strengthens her. Her deep listening is not weakness, it is a superpower It gives her wisdom without speaking, clarity without questioning, and strength without force. People may overlook her because she is quiet, but she understands more than anyone realizes. While others talk loudly to be noticed, she listens silently to understand life. And in that listening, she gains more insight, more emotional intelligence, and more inner power than any amount of loudness could ever offer. Silence is a shield, especially for a woman who has learned to protect her heart, her mind, and her peace from a world that often misunderstands her. When life becomes noisy, filled with arguments, expectations, disappointments, and emotional storms, a silent woman retreats into her quietness, not to escape reality, but to preserve her inner stability. Her silence becomes the armor she wears to guard herself from being overwhelmed by negativity. She chooses silence not because she is weak, but because she understands that peace cannot survive where noise remains uncontrolled. A woman who uses silence as her shield has discovered that not every situation deserves her reaction. She has learned that reacting can drain her, expose her vulnerabilities to the wrong people, or escalate situations unnecessarily. Silence gives her control over herself when circumstances try to control her. It creates a protective distance between her and the chaos around her. While others may panic, shout, or crumble under pressure, she withdraws into calmness. That silence becomes the space where she breathes, regains her strength, and decides what truly matters. Her shield is invisible, but incredibly powerful. When she chooses silence, she also protects her emotional boundaries. She knows there are people who feed off conflict, people who enjoy provoking others, and people who use manipulation disguised as conversation. Engaging with such individuals can damage her mental peace. So she uses silence to stop them from entering her emotional world. She does not respond to provocation. She does not react to insults. She does not explain herself to someone who has already decided not to understand her. Her silence is her way of saying, "You cannot disturb my peace, no matter how hard you try." Silence also shields her from the weight of expectations. Society expects women to be available, attentive, nurturing, expressive, always giving, always understanding. It expects them to absorb emotions, fix problems, and hold relationships together. A silent woman, however, has realized that constantly giving can break her. So she protects herself by stepping back, by creating quiet time for herself, by choosing not to engage in every emotional demand placed upon her. Her silence helps her recharge. It allows her to set limits without confrontation. It becomes her way of reclaiming her space in a world that often tries to take too much from her. There are moments when silence is the only safe place for her. Moments when words could hurt more than help. When she is deeply emotional, hurt, or angry, silence shields her from saying something she cannot take back. It protects her relationships by preventing impulsive reactions. It protects her dignity by ensuring she does not lower herself in moments of vulnerability. She knows that silence is sometimes the only thing that can hold her together when her heart is fragile. In silence, she heals. She sorts her thoughts. She gathers her emotions. She allows time to soften the sharp edges of pain. Silence also shields her from judgment. When she keeps her struggles, dreams, and feelings within herself, she is protecting her inner world from people who might criticize, misunderstand, or misuse her truth. She knows not everyone is worthy of her story. Not everyone can handle her vulnerability with care. So she silently carries her truths until she finds someone she truly trusts. Silence becomes her filter, a protective wall around her heart that only the deserving are allowed to cross. A silent woman chooses wisely who she shares her thoughts with. She does not open up easily because her silence has taught her that words can be fragile when placed in the wrong hands. She protects her dreams from negativity, her emotions from insensitivity, and her pain from people who may not value it. Her silence becomes the safe space where she stores everything precious, her hopes, her fears, her wounds, and her strength. Another form of her shield, like silence, is the way she withdraws from negative environments. She doesn't fight loudly. She doesn't argue to prove her worth. She simply removes herself silently. This quiet exit is her protection, a way to keep her energy intact, while distancing herself from anything that brings harm. People might think she is avoiding the issue, but she knows she is preserving her peace. Silence teaches her that sometimes walking away is far stronger than standing and fighting. Silence also protects her from absorbing the chaos of others. She stays quiet not because she doesn't care, but because she refuses to let others' emotions become her burden. She watches, understands, and chooses what to internalize and what to release. Instead of reacting emotionally to every situation, she lets silence help her filter truth from overreaction, reality from assumption. Her silence keeps her grounded while others lose balance. And yet, many people misunderstand this silence. They think she is shutting down, avoiding, or ignoring. But she is actually protecting herself from breaking down. She is guarding her spirit from being crushed under too much noise. She doesn't need to express everything she feels because her silence has become a sanctuary, a safe place where she can gather strength without exposing her vulnerability. Silence for her is not emptiness. It is a full, deep space where recharges mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. It is her armor against negativity, her boundary against emotional theft, and her shelter in moments of hurt. When she uses silence as a shield, she is not hiding, she is healing. She is not weak, she is wise. And she is not distant. She is protecting her sacred inner peace in a world that constantly tries to steal it. Her silence does not mean she is defeated. It means she is choosing peace. It means she is choosing self-control. It means she is choosing herself. And that silent choice speaks louder than anything noise could ever express.